It seems like no matter where you look nowadays, people in the US are literally getting handcuffed, put in unmarked vans, and taken away. And people tell me that they're afraid to come to Mexico because they'll get kidnapped. So-called law enforcement is doing this because they say that immigration is broken.
In my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden administration did to our country is the invasion at the border.
But what if I told you the system isn't broken? It's working exactly the way it was designed. If the US government fixed immigration like they say they want to and closed the border tomorrow, there would be a huge problem. Huge. The problem is that it wouldn't just hurt the economy, it would completely collapse it. So here are 10 reasons why America is secretly terrified of solving its immigration problem and why it won't ever get fixed. Number one, groceries would double overnight. If the US government actually kicked out all the illegal immigrants today, by tomorrow, a head of lettuce would cost $15. Here's what they don't want you to see. So about half of the workers that are picking fruits and vegetables on farms are illegal. They don't have papers. But the thing is that they're doing jobs that US citizens don't want to do. And US citizens, most of them, are too pampered and spoiled. If farmers had to pay proper wages to people for doing this work, by tomorrow, the prices of things like strawberries and tomatoes would double. They might even triple. Also, America sells a lot of its food to other countries. If it gets too expensive to grow, then it will be too expensive to sell to these other countries. And they'll completely stop buying this produce or this food from the US. Big corporate farms, they have a lot of money, so they can pay a little bit more. But smaller farms, this is how they compete with the bigger ones. They compete by not paying a lot of their workers a proper wage. And the states that actually tried to kick out these workers, these immigrants, the vegetables that were out in the fields actually just rotted because there was no one to pick them. Just think of it this way. If raw foods cost more, your favorite taco place or burger shop will be a lot more expensive. And that's what will happen if you completely kick out all the immigrants in the USA, or all the illegal immigrants even in the USA. And if you can't grow your own crops in your own country, you're gonna have to rely on buying food from other countries. And that can get really risky really fast. Number two, housing costs in the USA would just skyrocket. You think buying a house in the USA is expensive now? Just imagine if every construction company in the country loses half of its crew, half of its workforce overnight. The housing market would completely collapse. It would freeze instantly. In big states like Texas or California, a huge number of people that build houses and buildings are undocumented. And you get cheaper homes because these people get paid less. Because if you had US citizens building the houses and getting the money that they would demand, your houses they would just cost so much money. So there's this loophole that not many people know about, where these big construction companies, they actually hire smaller companies. And what they do is they hire people that are undocumented so they can pay them less. But they hire this smaller company so the bigger companies don't actually get in trouble for this. That's what these big construction companies hire. Just so the loophole is so they stay safe. They don't get sued. They don't get in trouble. And when disasters hit like hurricanes, these undocumented people are the first ones to help and clean up because it costs less. And let's not forget about dangerous jobs like roofing, because some roofing jobs can be super dangerous, especially big jobs on big buildings. And US citizens don't want these jobs usually. So guess who does them? And people who fix houses and flip them, make profit from flipping houses, they need cheap labor. Where do you think they find that? Who do you think they hire? And one of the biggest points is that the US needs more homes, not less. So if you lose those workers, they'll stop building there. And that's not what the country wants, even though they tell you they want to get rid of immigrants. They don't want a housing shortage, especially the big companies that build real estate. Number three, the service industry. The American middle class has a dirty little secret. They can only afford their lifestyle, like the nannies, the clean hotels, and the manicured lawns and bushes, because they underpay the people that do the work. And let's not forget about grandma's care. I mean, we need people to take care of our elderly people, right? Especially in retirement homes, because there's not enough Americans willing to do it. They're not willing to change an adult's diaper. In hotels, there's a lot of places that you can get great deals at hotels for a vacation. In the US, a lot of people that clean your room in hotels are undocumented. You see the point I'm getting here? Dishwashers at restaurants get low pay. The crews that mow your lawn in your neighborhood, they keep the grass looking good for cheap. So if everybody demanded $25 an hour and got that, inflation would go insane. Already worse than it is. So since you pay less for your stuff in America, you have more money to spend on fun stuff. You're spoiled by these people and you don't even know it. So I think they deserve more gratitude than they get. Number 4, the multi-billion-dollar private prison business. What if I told you that arresting people is a business model? Yeah, that's right. Police arresting people and ICE arresting people is a business model. There are massive companies on the US stock exchange that would go bankrupt if the US stopped illegal immigration. Private prison companies like GEO Group get paid by the government for every person that is sitting in their private prisons. That sounds kind of messed up. And some of the contracts they have with the government say that the cells need to be full. Otherwise, the government pays a fine. Just think about that. Think about what's going on right now in many cities in the US with ICE, tracking down people. And what these companies do is they actually do a thing called lobbying, where they give politicians money to make sure that these laws stay as strict as they are. And these companies have actually funded some of the most famous politicians in the past and present so they can run for office and afford to run for office, because running for something like president takes a lot of money. And these prisoners get paid less than $1 a day in prison to work. So twisted. And there's a lot of people that support these places, these prisons and these holding facilities, because in a lot of towns around America that used to have manufacturing, and maybe they lost it to places like China or even Mexico, the only job around town is to work in these jails or in these prisons. So of course you would be feeding your family. Why wouldn't you support this kind of nonsense if you didn't really look deep enough to understand it all? Now see, the more that the border crisis is a crisis, seems worse, the more prisons and holding facilities get built. And they don't want to send people home fast or send people back to their countries quickly, because longer stays means more profit. Number 5, the border security industry. So who gets rich from the wall? The US-Mexico border isn't just a line on a map anymore. It's a $1 billion shopping mall for defense contractors. And the last thing that they want is to run out of customers. See, there's a ton of tech companies out there that sell billions of dollars worth of cameras and sensors for the border. And the government spends billions of dollars on computer systems and other things that always need to be upgraded. So there's a big industry there. There's a lot of companies that make a lot of money from this border issue. Then there's police at the borders. Not only that they feed their families by policing the border, but there's companies that sell tanks and armored vehicles to the Border Patrol. And these defense companies make a lot of money. And the US government says they spend a lot of money on safety. But it's not to keep US citizens safe. That's not the truth. It's to keep these huge companies rich. Pouring concrete and putting up sections of the wall also makes construction companies a lot of money. And the government pays for experts to consult. Man, this list is getting longer, but there's consultants just to come up and think how the border needs to get fixed, how a problem needs to get fixed that is never going to get fixed. Sounds like the perfect job to me. A job where you never lose your job. Basically, these companies are in the business of scaring people, so they never lose business. Number 6, Social Security and tax lies.
We have illegal immigrants on Social Security, and we're going to find out who they are and take them out. We have illegal immigrants in other Medicare. We found a lot of bad people, a lot of people that shouldn't be on.
Everybody's been told that the immigrants are draining the system in the US. But the IRS actually knows the truth. What undocumented workers are actually doing every single year is donating billions of dollars, and I mean billions, to a retirement fund that they can never touch. So a lot of immigrants that are documented, they get taxes taken out of their paycheck every week, just like everybody else. And these people pay into Social Security, and they'll never get that money back. They pay into Medicare, and they'll never be able to use it. Young immigrant workers are paying into the systems just so older Americans can live better. Basically, without this cash, Social Security would collapse. It wouldn't exist today. It would have already ran out of money. So people saying that they don't actually help with anything and they just take from the system is a complete lie. See, the government acts like it has a split personality, where one part of the government wants to kick immigrants out, but the other one is fine with just taking their money and keeping it. Sounds kind of messed up to me. Number 7, America's population crisis. The US is running out of the one thing it needs to survive: people. They're just not having enough babies. And without enough babies and a new workforce, the economy will just walk off a cliff. There has never been a time like this. Americans are having less babies than they ever have. And as people get older, they need other people to replace their jobs and actually take care of the older people, or else the whole system falls apart. Without new people moving in constantly, some small towns would just completely go empty and just die. Schools would close because they don't have enough kids. But guess what? A lot of immigrant kids keep schools open, and a lot of immigrants keep towns going. And immigrants are really good at starting new businesses, like shops and restaurants. Did you know that immigrants are twice as likely to open up a business than US born citizens? That's a fact. Almost half, 46% actually, of the biggest companies in America right now, the Fortune 500 companies, were started by immigrants or their children. I bet you didn't know that. See, this is why they start businesses more often. A lot of times when people go to the US, their degrees from college or university don't apply the US, like they don't qualify. So really they won't find work easily. Nobody will hire them. So a lot of them start their own businesses just to survive. Moving to a new country is risky and really scary. Trust me, I've done it. I moved to Mexico. You have to be brave to leave your old life behind. So a lot of people think that immigrants go to the US to take jobs. But the numbers actually show that they create more jobs. And for the future, to compete with countries like China, the US needs a lot more people. Number 8, politics. Why hasn't the government fixed the border in the last 30 years? It's not because they can't. It's because a fixed problem doesn't get your vote. Politicians don't want a solution. They want a fight. They want a scapegoat. They want a villain. That's how they get your vote. See, this is an easy way to get people out and vote for the candidate. And like I said earlier, it's an easy way for the candidate to get donations from big companies that get paid by securing the border or other big ventures like putting people in prisons or holding centers. They get a lot of donations from these companies to run these campaigns to get to be something like President of the United States. And when something like a bad economy happens, politicians that are already in power point at the border as a distraction, and does really well distracting a lot of people, pretty much distracting everybody. It's actually proven that it's easier to blame immigrants for problems than to fix the real issue. Number 9, the consumer economy. Did you know that there's a huge shadow economy in the US that's worth billions of dollars? A lot of it is cash only. It's off the books. See, there's a lot of people that rely on rent from undocumented immigrants. A huge number of landlords actually give undocumented immigrants places to stay and collect rent from them. It's kind of like a huge underground real estate economy. And then there's another industry that, if you really think about it, makes sense. Like this is a thing and they make billions of dollars on it. Charging a fee when these immigrants want to send money home, like Western Union. They want to send money home to their families so their families can eat and have a roof over their head. And these companies make a ton of money on fees by charging them to send their money. Phone companies that sell a lot of prepaid minutes to people that can't get other types of phones. Places that cash checks. And these checks, it's not free to cash them. I mean, there's a fee for that too, because these people can't open up bank accounts. Do you see what I'm getting here? The list keeps going. All of that are just huge industries on their own that rely on billions of dollars every year from this group of people. And number 10 is manufacturing. Look at the tag on your t-shirt. Even if it says made in the USA, the hands that stitch the tag onto your shirt likely belongs to someone that the government wants to deport. Here's the lie behind that label. I mean, let's look at the factory that makes chicken nuggets. They rely on immigrants to do the cutting and the packaging. Clothes made in the USA are often sewn by an immigrant woman. The places that ship your packages across the country, they use immigrant workers to move your boxes. The recycling factories that sort through your trash and recycling, most of the workers there are also immigrants. It's hard work that a lot of local people don't want to do anymore. And there's a lot of small factories that make car parts that use cheap labor. So the cost of these parts are lower. And in a lot of these factories and places, on the farms and the factories and the hotels, bosses threaten deportation to these people if they complain whatsoever, even if it gets very dangerous. So this keeps these people mostly quiet. So for things that are made in the USA to stay cheap, they need cheap labor. And that's exactly what they find. So if you come this far in this video, I'm sure you liked it. And I have good news because I have more just like this one, like this right here. This is 10 lies about Mexico that have come out of Donald Trump's mouth. Click it and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.